This podcast is brought to you by eBizRadio, the place to go if you want to know about the world of business and the business of the world. For daily podcast and article uploads, go to eBizRadio.com or follow us on Twitter at eBizRadio Global. My name is Nick Snow, and joining me for another edition of eBizTrends is Dion Chang. Dion, thanks so much for taking the time to chat to me once again. We are talking your latest Flux observation, Need to Know, and that is a day with drones. Now, we have chatted about drones before. However, this conversation is going to be a little bit different because Amazon has just been given the go-ahead to test their drone system. Now, this is very exciting news, very exciting news for the retail industry. So, once again, thanks for joining me, and tell me about the recent developments.
Yeah, hi, Nick. I mean, this is really exciting because when Jeff Bezos announced last year that he promised drone delivery by 2016, people basically laughed and they said, well, this is a publicity stunt, it's not going to work. But I said, well, I think I'm with him that it's going to happen there. For me, it's like a lot of things that are happening in the world, so driverless cars to recreational marijuana. You see that legislation and regulation hasn't caught up. And even in South Africa last year, people said, well, they've just banned drones outright,
yes,
which is not true because there was a slight technicality. In South Africa, they banned the commercial use of drones without a special license. So they were really trying to kind of backpedal and put some regulation in place. But just to give the listeners some kind of background to this as well, back in 2013 or no, just 2014, last year, over Valentine's Day, an online florist was delivering boxes of flowers via drone. So at the moment, your drone commercial delivery is in quite a sort of a gimmicky space. So it's you're getting pizzas. There's Domino Copter that will deliver your pizzas.
Right.
I saw another video clip in Singapore, a restaurant doing it to as a sort of an add-on waiter service. But what was interesting about that case with an online florist was that it went to court and the judge ruled against the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Authority, because they said you cannot apply the same rules to a huge jumbo jet to a small UAV, which is an unmanned aerial vehicle,
yes,
also known as drones. And the online florist actually won. So that was a really sort of interesting breakthrough. So obviously they've been trying to deal with all of this kind of thing. And I've been saying to a lot of the financial services clients that I have, especially short-term insurance, because I love the skepticism of South Africans. They said, well, if things are going to be delivered
yes,
by drones, then they're going to shoot my stuff down. And I said, well, this is an opportunity. So with what's happening with Amazon is really, really a significant tipping point, because I've just seen far too much evidence of where we're going with this. And also you now get something called Drone on Demand, which is with a company called BizBSky in London. So very much like a Uber app, you are going to very soon be able to just call a drone and deliver. They can carry up to 0.5 kilogram.
Fantastic.
Of things around the place. But we've already seen a lot in South Africa in the movie industry. Well, that's around the world. You see drones being used, camera drones being used to film a lot of things from an advertising point of view. We're using it for rhino poaching. People are also watching riots and that sort of thing. So there's a bit of a dangerous edge to it as well. But the drone revolution is definitely coming. And the things that I've seen are ambulance drones and a whole lot of different things. And I've just done some work for a pharmaceutical company, and we're saying to them, if you're trying to work in rural areas in Africa, one of the things, and it's already some initiatives of that, is to deliver these pills and drugs
yes,
via drones. So it's really coming. So what we've done on Flux Trends is our trend observer for this month, or this week, is Pierre Duplessis, and what he's done is he's envisaged a day with drones. So what's it going to be like in the not-too-distant future when it just becomes an everyday occurrence? And it's quite an interesting read if people go onto our website to see what it's going to be like.
Well, I do encourage people to head over there and do it. But now, of course, we've been, speculating about the possible issues that may be involved. What do you think are going to be Amazon's greatest challenges in the lead up to this whole testing? And how do you think that's going to play out in the general adoption from other companies?
Well, I think the first thing that seems to work out, and this is with Bisbee Sky, the drone on demand in London as well, is you have to kind of now declare and regulate an airspace. So that would is kind of the first obstacle to saying, okay, where can these drones operate and how
highway
can
in
they
the
fly?
sky.
And then there are those logistics of, yes, what happens if something crashes and third-party liability, and that's what I've been saying to insurance companies. This is going to be a reality, and best get your ducks in a row and get a product available with that. But there is this. I keep saying this fork in the road, but already what Pierre is saying is, there's this issue of privacy, because suddenly you've got this drone flying overhead. You don't know if it's a camera drone, and there's already sort of incidences just in suburbs, around the world, where people are playing with these drones, and you get this new paranoia. Is this tracking me? Is it watching me? Is it recording me? All of those kind of things. But even he's got there's something that's already sort of about to combat a drone if it flies over, well,
Yes.
let's call it your airspace,
Right.
which is your home, and you can kind of take it out and do that. So I think we're in for a wild west in terms of where drones are kind of going in legislation and in conflict and everything. But it's it's happening, and he even puts in something called a parking drone, which will look for a parking for you. So I think once we get the legislation to say, okay, these are the rules, these are the parameters, then it really is going to be a free-for-all.
No, absolutely, and I can foresee a lot of problems, and I think that because the whole thing is about privacy and drones and invading space, I'd imagine that a lot of these would now begin to be carrying cameras, infrareds, or at night if you want to see where they're going, and so they can actually track the people who may be pointing weapons at them.
No, absolutely, and there's even, really stealthy ones. The one that we've been tracking is a biodegradable drone. And this is for real kind of sneaky stuff. If somebody spots your drone and you want to just get rid of it, you literally crash it into water and it dissolves. And this is already where we've gone to. Even though the commercial tipping point hasn't happened, there's just so many things that are coming through with it. But of course, what I think is really interesting with it, because one of the more funny things that Pierre picks out is a drone selfie. So, a selfie stick, or what I call a NASA stick, is going to be so 2014 now, because you just get your drone to take pictures of you and get your, the best side of you from the air. But this is quite an interesting one, because when, they said there was, when Facebook first really started getting going, they said it's called the Facebook Eye. You kind of frame only your perfect world. And what you're starting to see now, because I've seen a lot of it on the internet, whenever there's been some kind of conflict or disaster, we are starting to see a different perspective of the world, and that's from the air. And they said, when we converted from horse buggies to train travel, we had to adjust from looking straight ahead at the road to looking on the side to watch the scenery pass by. And now with the new drone era, you're going to start looking at things from the top. And this is where all the aerial photography and all of that's going. But in terms of policing and military, this is where the new space is, because you are able to monitor riots or unrest and all of those kind of things. And then the more sinister side is there are drones that will spray pepper spray as well as shoot rubber bullets. So we're getting into a very, very tricky space.
We are.
But exciting for some, terrifying for others.
Yes, exactly. And I think there's always going to be that flick of the coin, and it's something you and I always bring up, is that with the good, there is always going to be a slightly negative thing. And I think the biggest thing for people is, well, I'm really glad that you can deliver the pizza to my doorstep. However, I'm just a bit concerned that this drone might then fly over and then pepper spray or invade privacy or create this whole Big Brother thing, which people are trying to avoid so desperately.
So I think, unfortunately, the lawyers and law firms are going to have a field day with this, because there's going to be a whole lot of new muddy waters to try and kind of navigate and really set boundaries and make this a new normal, because it's not a new normal yet, but it's going to be very, very soon.
It most definitely will be, but it will be an exciting ride for us to watch and see how legislation changes. And no doubt there'll be a lot of opportunity for the public to be involved. And you'll have some crazy people, I'm sure, going, no, this is an infringement of privacy. And then you'll have the other people saying, yes, but it's probably going to happen eventually. So let's figure out a way of adopting it now. And so finally, Dion, how do you think most people are going to respond? Do you think the overwhelming response is going to be positive or negative?
I think people's levels of distrust are really, really high. They're already freaking about metadata and being tracked in terms of your digital or your electronic footprint. This just puts another sort of element of how you can be tracked and traced and all of those kind of things. But hopefully it will balance out, because we also picked up just recently that the spread is going to spread really, really quickly. So in China, the e-commerce giant Alibaba are already testing. So they've gone just one step. China's gone one step ahead of Amazon, and basically they are whisking ginger tea to customers within an hour. And they said, despite the sort of the controls of airspace, they're doing a test and they're limiting to 450 deliveries per city, and these are mega cities, so China, Beijing, and Shanghai, and you're starting to see them just start testing this, and with that means that there's going to be a sort of a slow comfort level that comes in when this does, and we'll see where it goes. But it's not a drone revolution that's starting. We're joining it and we're watching its evolution.
And I think we'll all be very excited to see what happens as us technology freaks do. And that brings us to the end of this edition of eBizTrends. Dion, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me once again on eBizRadio.
Thanks always, Nick.